took so long? Oh,
Oh,
there
Oh
we
my
go.
God.
Oh, man.
Mm.
How do you leave an idiot in suspense? Apparently,
Mm.
StreamYard and YouTube just did it. Folks, we are live. Welcome to Talking Crit. I am Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. With me in the center square is none other than Bad Mike Battleato. Flanking Mike on the other side is Mr. Jim Kitchen. And then below us, our friend from Emperor's Choice, those that hold the Arduin IP in great esteem and do it well, are George and Dave. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Howdy.
Yeah.
How's it going?
So,
By the way, I need to start this off real quick by saying, guys, thanks a lot. I got your package. I got the map in the mail. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I was just looking for it because I have a reputation to be able to grab something that's right by the desk and pull it out. But I'm sure Eric has a copy. But yeah,
Well-
it was. I was very
yeah,
impressed. Very impressed.
I'm
by
gonna,
it.
I'm gonna go to
So thank you
solo
very much.
layout and I'll kill my.
Oh, okay.
Hold on, I'm gonna kill my virtual background because I can do that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
this is something I can pull up real quick.
Mhm.
This, by the way, is something when I opened up the box, which had a tube, and you're going to get a much nicer, shinier tube than the tube that we got. I believe I showed pictures of the upcoming tube on the blog side, but this little package
giant-
here, this little package, by the way, is. This was like Christmas because I wasn't expecting it. It's got a nice look at the gold. Look at the gold on that.
Ooh.
And the paper on the inside of this
Very nice. Yeah, it's
parchment
exceptionally
like.
good.
You know, and actually this book feels very good. Feels very.
The best thing
worthwhile.
about a supplement like this, I think, Eric, when you get something like this, is when I look through something, if I'm interested in saying, man, I would like to set a game in this setting, world, rule book, whatever, that's when I get interested. And I pulled that out and I was like, ooh, yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, I appreciate. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. It was really amazing.
There's a number of prints, original artwork as a print. By the way, these are. I don't know if you can hear it.
I can hear it.
Thick prints. These are thick.
You got a good
prints.
too. I love
Yeah,
that.
and now it's no longer their mint.
I love that we have a show for deaf people. Do you hear it warbling?
Can you hear it wobbling? It's not just paper. It's thick. So
It's not near mint, is what it is. You ruined the collectability. Thanks, Eric. Good job.
I don't worry about that near mint stuff.
All right. Okay.
Come on. I'll wobble my artwork.
All right.
Oh God.
I know
Hey.
Jim's sweating over here. I can see Gen Con auctioneer Jim. The sweat's beating off as he's wet doing his map. It's like
Must be good. Must be good.
Yeah.
Must be good.
You'll have to give us your contact information, Jim. So I apologize. Feel bad.
Oh no, I've got some great questions. I've been looking forward to tonight because I'm going to ask all the questions I've wanted to ask somebody for 35, 40 years about.
Oh
Arduin,
yeah,
so.
he is not he's
I
gonna
have
experience
nothing.
the Arduin
I
too.
know nothing. So
Awesome.
And to explain a little bit, like with Eric, what he just showed with part of the Kickstarter there, we wanted not only the product itself, the maps and the book and the art prints, but we wanted the packaging to say something too. And that's why, like what Eric showed, and I got one here. And just Jim, when like you look at this is what we call a Vampusa in Arduin. It's a vampire Medusa. So there, take that combination.
God.
You want to ruin a party of adventurers' night, throw one of these babies at them, and they'll throw them for a loop. But just like, if you don't mind, Eric, just so you guys see, this is the package that we put the booklet in that
nice.
That Eric was showing.
Yeah.
We wanted to give you a piece of art. It's a Ziploc. It's nice. What I also want to say is it has not only the Arduin logo, but up here, this is a vintage Earl Otis from the original Arduin Grimoire.
Nice.
That he did. So we kind of put a little bit of hidden things in here. Here's even another little hidden thing. Let me see if it's done correctly. Well, we got a quote from Dave Hargrave underneath in the packaging. I know it's tough to see, but there's a little picture in there, another piece of artwork. So we've kind of added little Easter eggs even in the packaging.
That's fabulous.
Well, yeah,
That's
so
great.
we really tried to pay attention to detail with this.
Yeah.
And like with the booklet that Eric was talking about, gold foil, it has that feel, stitch bound as a book. So we give you, like, this artwork was actually black and white, and then Roland Brown, our art director, colorized it. So we did that. You know, we give you some inside pictures, a quote from Dave Hargrave, you know, all the regular, you know, register and all that stuff. Then we give you how to use this book, you know, a little quick guide. And the way the book is situated for everybody, there's over 1,300 names for the Arduin maps in this book. And Jim, I'm doing a little explanation to have you understand what it means for what we did. 1,300 names, Jim. You have rivers, mountains, cities, town, dungeons. And the way the book is, the first half of the book is by alpha. So if you look up a place in Arduin, you can just look it by alpha, boom, and you can find it. Find the grid on the map, which is behind me right here, big one, the Arduin map. Or the second half of the book, if you're looking at the map and you go, oh, J11, you can look it up by grid on the second half of the book, and you can go to J11, and it'll give you everything that's in there. Every river, every mountain, every village, every dungeon. So either way, so if you're starting a campaign, okay, we're going to start in the village of Lumley in Arduin.
Yep.
You can know what's in the box and then all the grid coordinates, you know, around it. So it's perfect for like a hex crawl type of thing. But this booklet, not only is it useful for the new Arduin map, the old Arduin map, this one here, which we give you in the Kickstarter, this cross-references both of them, Jim. It cross-references the new one, I'm showing it right, the 2024, and then the original Arduin map. So you have everything cross-referenced, and Dave, my business partner, did a ton of work that even dungeons that have multiple names or areas that have multiple names are completely cross-referenced. And another use for the book, if you need names, oh my God, here you go, 1,337, I believe is the number. So it's a lot of utility, and we think it's a beautiful little book. And I know Mike and Eric, you can speak to it because you have it, but it's a cool book. It looks good, and it has a lot of utility.
Okay, so I always like, whenever we have folks on with a Kickstarter, every time we've got somebody on with a Kickstarter, what I always ask for is I want to hear your elevator pitch. I want to hear your 30-second pitch why somebody should back your Kickstarter.
Go ahead, George.
Okay, my 30-second.
You got 30 seconds to sell me why I should back this Kickstarter.
We're going to have to time that. Oh, wait.
Yeah, now you're going to have to tell. You put me under the pressure here, Jim. I would say some of it would be just like I said. You are getting a uniqueness, a primal map that was at the beginning of the industry that gives you one of the most details for a country map in the gaming industry right now. You have a country map and maps that you can plug and play into a world. For the start of a campaign, what do you need? An idea, and you also need a map. It always starts with a map. In addition, we give you over 1,300 names to prime the pump. So it's either a plug and play for any existing campaign, or once we come out with Arduin Bloody Arduin or the original books, which we have, you can plug and play with these maps. And we give you enough maps that you could have a GM version and a player version, because you get the new updated Arduin map, but you also have the older map that has a lot less detail. Thus, you can use it as a Game Master map, and you get 2 continent maps. A big one, again, for the Game Master, put on the wall, and a smaller one that you can write up and use for game purposes. So you have functionality and art in a whole package at an affordable price, mind you.
And I'm a map guy, right? Like, I can't even begin to tell you 45 years of dungeon crawl maps. And, when all my friends hated it, I love the Forgotten Realms city system. I was like, I don't know, you've lost your mind. I laid out all the Judges Guild Wilderness maps into the one giant super map and spent a week just crawling around that. I'm that guy. I'm hardwired. And so I know about Arduin. You can't be in the industry and not know about Arduin, but Arduin was never a part of my life growing up. It was never stocked at any of the stores that I went to. I didn't hear about it until later, and at that point I was sort of entrenched in what I was playing and so on and so forth. And so now you own all of the IP for Arduin. You're publishing everything and bringing it back out, correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
But they've already published, so all the original books that came out, Jim, and the trilogy are all available. And this is another wonderful gift I got from these gentlemen last year. This is actually book 7 of, is there 7? I can't remember, 7 or 8.
9 books.
9 books. Oh my gosh, 9. Anyway, these are great reproductions because, Jim, I'm old and I can't see things anymore. And they have taken
I wouldn't know anything about that.
They've taken the original books and they've enlarged them so I can read them now. Yes. So anyway, so they have the whole world of Arduin is available for you available if you want to buy these, and they're great reproductions, softcover reproductions. They're all available. So this map fits in. If you're already wanting to learn about Arduin and you bought these books or you have the originals, the map would be great as a supplement because I you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. There was no map ever issued for the original, correct? I don't remember any. The box set didn't have a map, did it? I remember they had that box set.
No.
Yeah, there was never a map.
You never had the maps. Correct. And
that's
to give you
cool.
a little bit of a context of history, and I've said it before, but I'll keep it very summarized, Jim. For Arduin, Dave Hargrave, 1977, he comes out with the Arduin Grimoire.
Yep.
D&D came out 74. You had Tunnel and Trolls. You had Rune Quest about a year after Arduin. So you had a lot, Empire of the Petal Throne. So Arduin, in our view, with Dave Hargrave, was one of the pedestal giants at the beginning of the inception of the industry. And I'm not just trying to blow that out. We're serious about that. We feel it's one of the pillars in the industry. So what happened between Arduin? Why isn't Arduin well known, like you said? What happened is Gary and Dave Arneson and other people took things to more of a corporate level. Even with Chaosium, with Greg Stafford, with RuneQuest, they went more corporate where Dave was more the underground. Think of Arduin became like the punk rock of the industry. When you wanted something cool, something different, something that mixed everything, that had gates, that had crits, fumbles, was the conception for a lot of modern gaming. To be honest, Jim, that's Arduin. That was Arduin 40 years ago. There's not a lot, and I've said this numerous times, new, because Arduin was the wellspring for a lot of that creativity, mix everything, machine guns, 6 guns, your spacecraft, everything you could have in the game was in there a long time ago. So Arduin went more underground. Dave and Gary did sue each other. There was a whole legal thing between them. But Arduin became known as the West Coast gaming.
Right.
People call it Gonzo and, Monty Hall. But truthfully, when you really analyze it, it was bigger than life because you could do whatever you want. He stuck a lot of Star Wars in there. The Elric series was in there. He threw everything and anything, Lord of the Rings, anything you could think of, he put into his game.
It was a kitchen sink game. It was a kitchen sink game.
Yeah. He said instead of the rules restrict you, he said, no, get it, we fit it in and we can play it. It doesn't matter what it is. He was also the one who termed the phrase, take a troll to lunch. And what that meant was, why are you just playing humans? Why can't you play these races, Franks, which were the original insect warriors before the Tricreans, Deodants, which were like the Drow, but those were Deodants were in Dave's Hargrave's game in 1977. You know, the Saurigs, which are the lizardmen, the Thrune, which are the four-armed. I could go Centaurs. I could go the Cobbits. There are a ton of races. That's why when I see modern D&D, it's like, whatever. We had that in Arduin 40 years ago. You just never hear about it.
Red Dwarves, Tzatziki, Badahas, too.
Oh, yeah. Karatas, which are the rat men. I mean, red dwarves. So there was a lot there, Jim. And unfortunately, Dave Hargrave passed away in 88, 42 years old. He was barely in the industry 13 years. But I'll tell you, what he gave to the industry was just as important as the other ones, even with Gary and Dave Arneson in the industry. We have not only his original maps, we have over 150 unpublished dungeons, thousands of item cards that this guy did, some completely penned dungeons that we have coming. We have more material coming. Just imagine, Jim, finding boxes and boxes of unpublished Gary Gygax material, all in its old pattern. What
just like Griff with Arneson.
Yeah, what Eric showed, those maps, a couple of the art prints, that was his original concept map. We believe it's the second oldest print that Dave Hargrave hand drew for Arduin before you see the ones that we developed. These are all from the original. Yes. Yep. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, give me something. I'm bigging you. Mike,
yeah.
It's all you.
Oh.
Mike's large now.
I'm embiggening.
You're embiggening.
Yeah.
So
that right there. If this doesn't get your old school cockles hardening, which mine are pretty hard right now, looking at this, then you're not old school, because that's. And I'd like to say one real quick thing about Dave Harder. So I was a big fan back in the day, and a couple of things, and you touched on it. He died early, George, and that was. Yeah. I think if he lived past the 80s, we would have had a big renaissance of Arduin much sooner than we did. Yeah. But he was a hard to get along with guy, wasn't he? Now I know he had diabetes, and I know, well, harder to get along with than maybe a regular game designer. He had diabetes, and I, as a type 1 diabetic myself, if you can have mood swings because your sugar's too high, too low, and he had a big falling out with Greg Stafford.
Greg Stafford.
Yeah. Because he did some work for Chaos, and he did some really excellent Call of Cthulhu modules. As a matter of fact, he did the most grotesque. He did probably the creepiest, most grotesque, most disturbing Call of Cthulhu module ever written. Dark Carnival.
I believe it was the Black Carnival.
No, it's called Dark. It's Dark Carnival. I looked it up.
Dark Carnival. Yes.
It is absolutely the most disturbing thing you've ever written by Call of Cthulhu. And so please look that up. So yeah, he was very talented. Very talented.
And what a lot of people don't realize is, and I know Greg Stafford with Chaosm and RuneQuest, I mean, that's awesome, you know, what Greg Stafford did. But Greg Stafford came from Dave Hargrave's table. Right. Actually, he was supposed to use Arduin for RuneQuest, but then there was a major falling out. There was a real issue. So just and Jim, I'm just going through this to give you kind of
I think this. So one of the great thing is that we have you talk about the Kickstarter, which is easy, right? We have beautiful maps. Right. We're reproducing maps, and they're amazing. But one of the things about the Kickstarter is for $100, you get 8 Arduin books. You can add that onto your pledge, and you can get you can get the 8 books as part of that.
Well worth. Oh,
and at $12 a piece, your winner chicken dinner.
Yeah.
We also slipped the World Book in there too, which actually has details on every country that are on that continent map as well.
Right.
Yeah.
This is all from Dave's notes and stuff too. You guys, I mean, you guys have all the original stuff, which is amazing. So just a little tiny bit, because this is always it's always been fascinated by the history of D&D. And I was at one point many years ago, I discovered a lot of issues, alarms, and excursions, which really drove my interest in old school D&D and just some of the really, oh, thank you, climbing that mountain. We appreciate that, man. But to understand what they call West Coast gaming, West Coast D&D, you had the Midwest, which was very Tolkien, medieval. Gary and Dave were the kind of sentences. When you went to the West Coast, George put it. I mean, Gonzo is the word for it, because Arduin had machine guns.
I got that.
Flying sharks. I mean, laser. I mean, it was crazy. It was everything. It was everything that Gary didn't want to put in his game. He was trying to be the kind of here's I'm going to keep things kind of normal. Yes, you can. There was conversion charts for boot hill characters for D&D or World, but Dave really did it. It wasn't just conversion charts. It's like, yeah, you can have a 6-gun shooter, you can have a mutant, you can have one character can play a dragon. I mean, this, then you're an alien from a different planet. That was all built into the rules, and which was so. There was a lot of people that back in the day would sniff and go, oh, West Coast gaming, it's so gonzo, it doesn't make any sense, So there was kind of that dichotomy, and you did have, it was kind of East Coast, West Coast rap, you had this thing going where, people, if you said you played, Arduin, he was like, oh,
I believe what I'm hearing is that Arduin was the Russ Myers of role-playing games.
That's a good description, but it was great because Dave Hargrave's imagination was so amazing. Just looking through the books, you go through here. I mean, the table of contents. This is book 7. You have new illusion magic, new druid magic, new runesinger magic, new character classes, new monsters, new magic items. I mean, it just went on. Every page, if you just play D&D and didn't even play Arduin, these are worth getting because you can just flip the pages and, oh, this looks really cool. This monster looks awesome. Oh, this magic item looks amazing. Because he did all the things that Gary was doing at the very beginning, but then when they came up with AD&D, it's like, yeah, we're going to straighten this up and make it, because we wanted people to play to conventions and all be able to play the same game. Dave was not about that, was he, guys? It was like, no, we're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink in here, and you guys are going to love it. Like you said, the Star Wars influence. You can even see the Star Wars. I mean, anything that was pop culture at the time, he would just shove that in there and say, yeah, we can do that. We can do lightsabers, yeah, whatever. I mean, but the game is built to where all that stuff fits in, and it doesn't mess the game up. It's built into the DNA of the game.
And that's part of the thing I wanted to say, and I know we have the Kickstarter, but of course we always go to the system, and what we're doing Arduin Bloody Arduin. We're creating the new Arduin system for next year. And one of the foundational things that when we're looking at, because when we look at Arduin, when people say gonzo and that high level play, what I want to stress is the system, if you build a system that can handle the machine guns, can handle these powerful monsters, 6 guns, can handle tanks in the game.
A little bit of
That's
cannon.
great. Because you know what? If you want to play a low level, like a Conan, a very low power, your system, you can pull it down and it's fine. It works great. There's no problem. But if you decide you want to dial it up or change it up, go through a portal, because again, gates are an Arduin. It was the multiverse back in the day, still is. You can ratchet up and the system doesn't fall apart. You try to do that with some systems, and what happens is with some systems, the engine starts to wobble and then completely collapses. I'm over 10th level. I got a +5 sword. I got 100 hit points. All of a sudden the system goes collapse, 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 collapse. Where in Arduin, no problem. We'll give you a +5 Holy Avenger, +6 plate mail. You can be a 20th level paladin. No problem. No problem. Let's go have some fun and we can play. And your paladin will be challenged easily. So that's the difference, I think, with Arduin. Gonzo, yes, the style of play, so to speak. But what I would say is the system is capable of handling the high level play, being able to handle throwing lightsabers in or laser guns, and the system doesn't collapse. So that's kind of how I want to phrase. So I get it, Mike. I just wanted to kind of frame that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted. I didn't want to insult, but by saying Gonzo, I am not insulting the game at all. It's just the style of gaming. It's absolutely, and I made a point in the comments that White Plume Mountain is. Yeah, Funhouse Dungeons were always Gonzo, and they were a huge part of early D&D. But if you notice, they get phased out as D&D gets more respectable. In the 80s when they're kind of becoming more corporate, they start phasing out the Funhouse stuff, and it's going to be then you have more serious dungeons.
The systems all began to address Monty Hall gamers, and as they addressed Monty Hall gamers, the other side of that coin, the Monty Hall dungeons, all went away. And that's we're the worst for it in some ways. So you've got two different flavors for the Kickstarter. Why don't you explain the two different levels of the Kickstarter?
The two different rewards, the two tiers.
Yes.
With the tiers, they are very identical. You do get all 10 items. What does that mean? The 10 items, you're getting the brand new Arduin map. So you're getting the full large size 39 by 30 inch Arduin map. You're getting a continent map the same size. You're getting a smaller version of the continent map. That's the third map. Then you're getting the original Arduin map, and then you get the Arduin map index, the 4 art prints. And the difference, Jim, just so you know, with the two tiers, all the maps are going to come rolled into a specialized custom tube. And that one tier is the more expensive one. It's the $75 tier. The $65 tier is the exact same. The only difference is both continent maps are folded instead of rolled. Hence why it's $10 cheaper. And those are the custom tubes that the maps will come rolled in. So,
interestingly enough, your 44 backers currently for the higher tier and 7 backers for the lower tier. I think the public's really speaking as to what they want. I don't think. Yeah. I mean, if it was me, I would take one look at this and go. I mean, I think what people want are the nicer tubes. I think your market has clearly spoken in that regard because the tubes are beautiful.
We're really proud of that. We are actually have them as an add-on that people can buy extra. You'd be surprised how many people are tacking on 1 or 2 extra tubes. And these tubes are they don't have cap. What it is an end cap that comes off.
Right. So it's you can see it to the you can see
it. Yeah, you can see it right after the end there. Guys, you can see it. It slides off. Yep. So the tubes are beautiful. We were very impressed. And
they're a lot bigger than they look in the picture.
Yeah, exactly. And we offered all the Arduin material, all the original, the card sets, all the stuff. So if people were interested in the dungeons, what Arduin is, the world guide, you have everything there. And we discounted everything about 20%, all our books. So people can get into the world of Arduin. And a lot of people, they have them. Vaults of the Weaver is 7 dungeons in one book, right. 7 old school dungeons that you have there. That was another thing, Jim, now that I remember it, the cards. Dave, I believe, was the first one to come out with monster and item cards, what you saw earlier. Dave, every module would have 8 artifacts and 8 monsters in each module that you could cut from the sheet and show players. Those are generic ones where you can put your own stats on the back of them.
And so all the booklets are digest sized, right?
The little ones are. That Vaults of the Weaver is full size, 8.5 by 11.
Oh, it's larger. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Then that's the World Guide is 8.5 by 11, which is also, ironically, it is the first over 800-page book that came out in the industry at the time.
Yeah. Back in 2000, we came out with a hardcover version. It was the first in the industry. And then all of a sudden the Mega Dungeons and so forth came out. Yeah, we detailed everything there, Jim. We'll tell you, one thing I just want to say with Kickstarters, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. We noticed and we wanted to make sure we did this right. A lot of people don't put the sizes of their books or page counts or anything. And you know what? That bothers me because
yes, you are correct, sir. You are correct.
Because when I'm just going to say it, they're little digest size books, and we have them too. But I think we want to show people, look, this is what you're getting. You're getting 800 plus pages, a full size book. Is it soft cover? You know, the whole 9 yards. We feel that's being transparent, because a lot of times you're buying a book and you have no idea what you're getting. You know, it could be a little, I don't know, digest size, not a full size. So we made sure to specify with all our material how big it was, even the maps. You know, how big are the maps that I'm getting? You know, what am I paying for?
I'm a big fan of over informing, right? There's all sorts of the graveyard of failed Kickstarters where, you know, once I have the money, I'll begin writing the project, or, you know, well, you'll get to see what's in the box after you've gotten the box. I just abhor that, right? That's always a sign of Kickstarters that aren't going anywhere. You're funded at this point, so everything now from here on out is just gravy, and really,
hopefully everybody stays in the game.
hey, knock that off, right? Like the goal is to get more people, right? And
Right.
and I think what you can say to people is, for under $200, you can get Arduin the way you've always been interested in Arduin, right? You can get all the hand-drawn maps from back in the day, reproduced in a way they've never been reproduced before. We've got the 8 books that are an add-on for $100. You know, you're getting the books at a discount. We're bundling all this together. This is going to show up at your doorstep. When's fulfillment taking place? When do you anticipate shipping?
We anticipate the Kickstarter ends July 30th. Kickstarter, from our understanding, takes 2 weeks to solidify the money, the addresses. We plan, if barring any X factor or anything weird, Jim, we're going to start packaging in August. So by late August, we're sending shipments out.
Sure.
We hope to get everybody. Now, we put October 24, October as a ship date. We're hoping to beat that by a month plus. We plan to start shipping in August.
Will you be at Gen Con?
No.
Okay. No, I just some people go, some people don't, and I'm always interested to hear if that's an impact. So really and truly, what I'm also hearing is you're actually going to ship early as opposed to shipping years later or never at all.
Yeah.
So that's a sign.
We feel it's late if it's 2 months.
Right.
That's sure. And what we did, Jim, like you said, with the Kickstarter and how other people did it, and I'm proud of this fact. That's why I want to really state this. We invested in our own product before any single person, which we thank very much for everyone who's backed us so far. And what I mean by that, Jim, is a lot of people put time and effort in Kickstarters. We get that. But what we did is we took it to another level, Jim. We have all the maps, all the books, everything. We already have thousands. We have the stuff waiting to go. We invested in the product beforehand. It's already produced. It's sitting here. As soon as we get things solidified in the next couple weeks and we know, we're going to start packing. We're going to start getting things ready. We've taken the chance of already investing thousands and thousands of dollars into real product that's here. So we're taking a chance before we even got a penny. We sunk in all the money and got the product here. Yeah. So we didn't let you wait 1 second. It's ready to go now completely. And I did, because we're proud of that. We believe in our
We're
product.
just waiting on just a tiny little bit, like the tubes.
And so let me ask a different question, because I think our audience is always sort of interested to know this. How did the two of you become the stewards of Arduin?
Oh, that's a story. We Dave and I, of course, were gamers just like everybody else. And in 1998, we formed a corporation, Emperor's Choice. And at that time, we were just starting to do some miniatures, but we did games. Like we'd buy games from distributors, Chessex and Armory, and sell them. But then we're like, you know what? We'd like to get into more. So we started getting more into miniatures. And Dave went to Chessex distributor and he found they had a casting machine and they had archive molds. The archive company was a Melville Stockton who did archive miniatures and a lot of.
I'm very aware.
You're very okay.
Jim, yeah, Jim's the Warhammer guy.
Jim's a miniatures guy.
Oh yeah,
okay. Because we are originally a miniatures company. We're actually a miniatures company that got into the role play games, Jim. Right. So Dave went to Chessex. He asked them. They said, "Oh yeah, you want to buy it?" Lo and behold, Dave comes back and we got a new casting machine and all these archive molds with Arduin miniatures.
Well, I wouldn't say that casting machine was new.
Wow, it was old. It was
loved.
Yeah,
yeah. It was a weighted machine. It didn't even use air. It used weights to keep the plates down.
Yeah.
And it was
interesting. That was
I actually have some of the original Arduin miniatures in the blisters. Actually.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They're actually labeled as Arduin miniatures. So
that's cool.
Wow.
So we got more of the equipment to do the miniatures. And then Dave and I had been using Arduin. We used it with our D&D game with Rollmaster. We used to use Arduin in anything we gamed with. So Dave was like, why don't we see what's going on with Arduin? That'd be great to have an IP. So lo and behold, Dave starts searching. He finds Jim Mathis, who was the owner of Grimoire Games. They were the ones who were producing Arduin back in the day.
Yep.
Dave contacts him. Back and forth, and about 3-4 months later, we're the brand new owners of the Arduin IP.
Great way to start the millennium.
Wow.
Yeah. You're looking right at 2000 that everything kind of got together. We had to go through some stuff. Dragon Tree Press was producing some of the books. We had to do a bit of a legal action with them to get Arduin solidified, so we won that. We trademarked Arduin. All the copyrights are registered under Emperor's Choice. We have a ton of unpublished material over the last 20 years. We've gathered, like I said, 150 plus dungeon maps, notes, item cards, thousands of item cards and shoe boxes that Dave Hargrave made, character sheets from back in the day from all his campaigns. We have been not only creating a game company, Jim, but an archive of history. Dave over here, probably pointing the right way, has 9 binders full, 9 and 3-inch binders full of these dungeon and archival folders, all tagged with the names and everything. So we're not only doing a game company, but an archive of historical reference. We have the original hand-drawn, painted / pictures of these that were on big cardboard sheets. One of them is like kind of in 2 pieces. And we're trying to preserve as much as we can of this guy's history. Griff, who's in the chat right now, he's already done 3 interviews. We're doing a documentary. We're talking to Neville Stockton, which he was our first interview. We talked to Andy Rodriguez. We just talked to William Watt from Grenadier Miniatures, who's been our sculptor, Jim, for 20 plus years, ever since Grenadier went away.
Yep.
So we're doing trying to do a documentary for Dave Hargrave, because part of our passion is Dave Hargrave has never gotten the credit, and I'm going to say it, that he should have gotten. He's right up there with Dave Arneson and Gary Gygax or Greg Stafford or any of them, period. And I will say that adamantly. And he's never gotten the credit that he should. So has Dave Hargrave's family been a part of this process? Have they been helpful? Have they been?
We've been talking to some of his family. They're fantastic people.
That's great. That's really great.
They're really nice. They got stories that we never heard.
Yeah, I can't believe you guys haven't been to NTRPG. What the hell? Like, if there was one place that you guys should absolutely be camped out at, it's NTRPG.
We keep hearing that.
Oh my God! Why are you even on this show?
We should run down there right now.
Jesus wept. Like, if there was one thing
that is your target audience. I'm telling you.
How about a quick
God
North Texas Con right now?
2025
stunned.
You guys need to pencil it in 25. You need to get a booth because this is absolutely is your target audience. I'm telling you.
What the hell?
Tim and Eric will tell you.
Are you guys in California?
No.
Yeah. No.
Buffalo.
Where do you live?
We're in Buffalo, so we're right next to. We're in New
Oh
York.
no! You
Right
might
next
have to
to
drive
Ohio
with a
today,
carload of stuff to sell. Oh no! We'd have to rent a Sprinter van. Jesus, you guys could make Scrooge McDuck levels of money if you just came to the show.
I know.
He's right.
Oh,
He's not,
oh my
he is
God.
Not wrong. He is not wrong, guys.
I am flabbergasted.
We've been talking to him the last few years, and we keep trying to get him to go. Eric and I keep telling him that
what
we're just trying to get the rebuild.
We don't want to make all that money. No. I can't be bothered to count it all.
We've been thinking. I know we should, and we went to GaryCon 2 years ago, which we drove and brought everything.
You're getting the platypus of disdain right now. I can't even believe that. What the hell? Oh my God!
Yeah, I mean the first con we did was 2 years ago.
We've been to this dance. We've been to this dance, Jim.
Oh,
but
God.
It's a passion. All of this is a labor of love. It's a passion for us. I think you can tell with the way we are. We sink our heart and soul into this, blood, sweat, tears, and we're serious.
My God, do you have any idea? People would fawn over you in the most gratifying of ways.
You would be celebrities in that little
Jesus.
niche of a niche. You guys would be celebrities. Yeah. You would be celebrities.
My God, you could sell buttons that say, I didn't know Dave Hargrave, but I identify as him, right? Or Dave Hargrave is my spirit animal. I would buy that button.
Yeah.
Jesus. I love that. I can't get over the Russ Meyer of role-playing games. I think that's just the best summation of Dave Hargrave's contribution, right? Sorry.
Correct. No, absolutely.
Yeah,
really
by the way, don't let Jim beat you up too bad, because Jim finally made it to North Texas only 3 years ago. So it wasn't like he's day one.
I think it's four.
Yeah. And so he's just playing catch up now and kicking himself that he missed it so many years also.
I'll be the first to say it, right? But I'll never not go again, right? I'll just never not go. And what we've always said about North Texas, what I had heard about North Texas, but before I went, and what I found after I got there, really and truly, this is the con. This is the sweet spot for exactly what you have, what you're bringing to the table, and you have a product that has a very unique place. Like everybody always talks about California gaming. Everybody talks about RPG, California RPG gaming. And we can talk about Arduin, but Arduin really begat Call of Cthulhu as well. What you were talking about being at the table, right? And so there's a very fundamental shift when you look at RPG gaming from California versus, I could even say the West Coast, right? Now, when we say the West Coast, then that starts bringing in other things that came out around the millennium. The less we say about the world of Cinnabar, the better off we all are. But there are other things like it as well that are all that kind of influence. And I do remember as a kid, we went to California. Well, my grandmother and I went to Los Angeles, and I saw Arduin, but I had no idea what it was, and I just passed on it. I actually passed on it. And of course, stupid me, I should have bought the Grimoire, and I would have been much happier and better for it. So you've got 20-some days left on the campaign. Do you have stretch goals for if you get to a certain number? Is that something you're sort of walking away from because really that's not what you're interested in doing? You've already said that this is a very different Kickstarter. You've already printed this. Everything's in motion. It's just all the bits and pieces are coming together. So there's not, with some campaigns, there's always this just endless array of stretch goals that end up bankrupting the people who are trying to do it. What's your next step of success for this? Where would you like to see it end?
Well, a lot of things on the stretch goals real quick was the Arduin map was actually going to be the stretch goal. After the prints, those were going to be a stretch goal. And then we talked and just decided, let's get rid of the stretch goals. And now we're having a dialogue about possibly adding one.
And what would that be?
I'll let George deal with that. We're not sure yet. That's his problem to talk about.
Oh, gee, there you go, George.
Yeah. Nothing like being thrown under the bus live.
There you go.
Yep, that's George's problem.
Well, we don't need an
sure
inflatable Vampusa doll. No,
no. Well,
we're trying to get through the logistics of it right now in dialogue. So
let me say this about why this Kickstarter is different. Just a couple points, just to kind of frame it. The Kickstarter is different in that, like I said, we invested in the product. All the products here. That's why as soon as we're done and everything's good, we start shipping. So there's 2 points. Everything's here. We're ready to go. And we're going to get you the product as soon as possible. You're not going to wait a year. You're not even going to wait 2 months if we can help it. We're going to get that product in your hands as soon as possible. Stretch goals. We went back and forth, like Dave said. We went back and forth and we said, you know what? We're not going to hold you in suspense and give, dangle this carrot in front of you. You know what? You put your faith on us and you give us your pledge to help us. We're going to give you everything. Instead of piecing out to stretch goals, here's all 10 items, all the prints, the art map index, all 5 maps. Here's the whole kit and caboodle, because we feel then you have more faith in knowing I put my $75 down. I'm going to get everything. And the only thing we have to do is hit that stretch goal. Now, yes, we're still in a fight. We need to go well beyond, because we could have made that stretch goal, to be honest, a lot larger, but we decided not to. We tried to hit a mid-range that we felt was reasonable for us, that we would be okay with, and that would be feasible for everybody. Yeah. So we want to keep going. So what we thought, Jim, was give everybody. And how does that entice people? Why would more people want to give now? You know why? The funding's done. You know it's real. We're telling you we have everything. You put down your money, and I'm going to say this. As a company, I guarantee you put down your money, again, barring something completely not under our control, I guarantee you're going to get your product, and you're going to get it as best as you can. And if there's any issues, you're going to get it quickly. If there's any problems, we're very quick to respond when any issues and take care of it immediately. So our Kickstarter is different because we've invested in it ourselves, and we take pride in it. And we take pride by doing that. So we haven't done any stretch goals. Now, Dave just mentioned we donate to one. We are considering, because some people have asked about digital. What about a digital version of the map? And we've talked about, and I know it's 2 different things, we've talked about, because we've looked into the VTT or just having a digital image where you can use on the computer. We're considering right now, we got to work out the logistics of doing digital versions of the maps for people as a stretch goal. And that would be it, though. We don't want to do any more, but we're trying to work through the logistics of that. So that might be the only.
And it may sound like a cop-out working through the logistics, but we traditionally don't do PDFs. So we have to understand a little bit about it.
Which is fine. I'm going to tell you, as a consumer, you give me these maps in digital, it's going to be my wallpaper on my computer. I can guarantee you that. But not only that, like the majority of the games that I run, if I'm not running at a convention, I'm running using Roll20. And I could take that map and place it in Roll20 and have my players adventuring in Arduin. It's a great tool. Now, I could also lay the maps out on my dining room table and stand on my table with the camera on my phone and take a shot. But having a proper digital version as a consumer, I think that's an awesome stretch goal. I wouldn't even need it when things start shipping, just to know that it's coming down the pipe. I think that's awesome. That would be awesome. Personal opinion.
I just want to speak as someone who was also born in the 1900s. This whole sort of virtual tabletop stuff, I understand the appeal. I understand why people push for it and so on and so forth. And I think you have to get ahead of that. I do think you have to sort of think about how you're going to do that. That's a completely discussion. That's a different discussion. It's something for offline and so on.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess the next question I would have, because there should be some urgency of why people should fund the campaign. Like you've said that you've gone ahead and printed these. Is it one and done, or is this something that eventually these are going to be part of the main stock? But I want people who are interested in this to buy them sooner than later and risk missing out on them. I think you've obviously put together a lot of thought into what you've put together as a package. I think you've put a lot of thought into the packaging, and I think you've done some really clever things. We were talking about some things before the show started, and I think you should sort of walk people through that a little bit, that there's Easter eggs. There's Easter eggs all over the packaging, and don't blow it, don't spoil it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of thought that went into this. And so what's some of the thought on the back end of the process? Is this, we're going to do this one time and this is your chance?
We're going to have it in stock always.
Okay.
If we run out, we'll go more. We printed a large stock to have on hand for the foreseeable future. So we're not afraid of running out of stock right now. We have no intent on making the oddball collectible, special cover, buy these 15 different covers, because everybody wants to have something. I mean, everybody wants to have something special, which is the reason why we made it all special. It's all on a nice parchment-like paper.
And I'm begging you not to consider the dice bags that somebody's talking about. You'll hate that. Just don't. Just don't. Every time somebody says, I need a dice bag, don't listen to them.
We do have another little tiny oddity that will be in every box, and I don't think we're going to say what it is.
Good.
But it's an oddity. I don't want to. It's not a dice bag. Nobody has it yet. We don't even have a prototype.
Don't even say anything, Dave. We have some.
Uh-oh.
We're known to throw little twists and surprises, Jim, into things. So we do have it. And what I wanted to say is, what's the urgency for people to do this? Here's the biggest urgency. If you go to the frequently asked questions, you're going to see the breakdown of the retail cost, which we already put out, which is reasonable, compared to what the discount you're getting with this. You are getting all the maps, all 10 items at wholesale cost. You're getting it for about 50%, 47, 50% off. So the thing is, you can spend $75 now. Shipping is shipping. That cost.
And to be fair, one of the things I was going to say is I thought your shipping costs were very reasonable. It's $25 US. It's $35 Canada, which is not that bad considering all the shenanigans with Canada Post. And then, and I thought this was equally impressive, it was $50 for the rest of the world. And so a little bit of a hat tip, right? I don't know that there is a gigantic Arduin club in Perth, Australia, but if there are, you've at least given them a tip of the hat as far as shipping. And I thought that was very decent of you.
There should be. The guy who did the Arduin map is from Australia.
Yeah. Oh my God!
Plug-in.
Yeah, we
wanted to remember. He might actually be living in Perth right now too.
Yeah.
Here, I'm just gonna.
Oh, awesome! Eric.
It's Eric with centerfolds again.
I mean, me with the centerfolds. By the way, this is an Easter egg. The flag. I heard about that. You guys have discussed that. But the paper quality of this is parchment-like. It isn't that high gloss that you're going to find on our poster.
Nah, it's really
nice. This is stuff that's going to look beautiful on your wall, beautiful glass. I got to say, it is amazing, and it's something that I listen. If I had it as a shower curtain, Rach said I could actually hang it up, which means I should be able to get some of this stuff up on the walls behind glass. So, I mean, she wouldn't let me hang up, Barge Gate. I have that one as a shower curtain. Can't do that, but she told me I could do the Arduin stuff. So that says a lot. So I will never get this back in the tube until after the show. Because
we'll be getting you a new tube too, you guys. So we'll be sending.
Oh, nice!
Don't spoil
again. Before we leave, tonight, we need your contact information. We're going to introduce you to the world of Arduin. We're going to get that bug going.
I do not lack for things to read.
Yeah, but
there is one other sense of urgency I'd throw in there that I don't think George covered, and it's any kind of support helps us do more. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's always sort of how I like to close when we talk about these things, right? Because the good news is you're 100%. You're 100% of your goal currently, And ideally, what this show does is, and why I always sort of ask about the elevator pitch, right? So if it was me, if you were like, Jim, tell me about this Kickstarter, what I would say is, we're finally bringing all of Dave Hargrave's hand-drawn maps to the public in a fashion they've never been released before, in a set that's really just jaw-dropping. And if you're an old fan of Arduin, somebody who's heard about Arduin, somebody who knows nothing about Arduin, this is a way to dive into the deep end of the pool in a way that we've just never had before in 40 odd years, because that gets me interested. That gets me, when I talk about things, if I talk to people tomorrow and they're going to be like, oh, well, who was on the show last night? I can say we were talking about Arduin. It's the campaign Kickstarter for the map project right now, blah, 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 blah. And that's what this show really serves as a purpose, is that you can refer this and say, hey, listen, we spent an hour and a half on with Eric and Mike and that loudmouth, and we talked about Arduin, and he didn't know anything about Arduin, but all this stuff just goes to more buzz, right? One of the things I would say, you don't have any updates yet. You don't have any real updates on the campaign page, and what I would encourage you to do is, I think you said that you'd already been on another show talking about the campaign. Every time you go on a show, you need to put a link. You need to put a link as an update and say, hey, listen, really and truly, we're going out there. We're talking about this. You're all getting it at a decent. You're getting it at a price that it won't be at once this goes to the web store and once the campaign is over. Make sure you're telling your friends. If you played Arduin with somebody previously, it's the word of mouth on this stuff that really takes off. And I would say, if the numbers continue to go the way they are, I don't know who the 4 people are that took the lower tier, but everybody else seems to be going to the higher tier for a reason. And I think you should point that out and just say, listen, we've put together an unbelievable package. We're asking all of you to take the time to sort of help get the word out.
Yeah. No, that's excellent.
Yeah,
Jim.
well said.
No, that is well said. And like I said, we just agonized over everything, even the cost of the tiers, how we're going to do. And we're like, we want to give the most for the least, honest to God. When we looked at those price points, when we went through anything, like you said, the packaging, I mean, a lot of stuff was right down to the wire. What are we going to do? How are we going to put this together? It was a lot of late nights with Roland Brown, our art director, Beck, and how many times with the packaging go, no, this looks good. No, this isn't right. What picture do we use on the map index? Is that the cover? Do we want that? The back cover? Every meticulous little detail. Stitch bound. Are people going to like that? Stitch bound, not perfect bound. So
right.
A million details on this that we just poured everything we had. So you're right.
And I think one of the things that we see a lot of the time, and I think Eric and Mike would agree with this, as the creative team, you are too close to the project sometimes.
Yes.
Right? Like you've agonized over every sentence and the spacing of the kernels, blah, 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 blah. And it's very hard. It's very hard when you are this close to something you're passionate about to sort of pull the camera back and sort of think about this. But you've said some things with us already tonight that I would really highlight in the campaign. I would really make sure to put an update and say things about that. And I would say, right, one of the reasons we did this campaign is we wanted to give the true fans of Arduin an opportunity to get these at a bit of a discount before we bring them out at MSRP. And once they're out at MSRP, once this campaign is over, it's done and dusted. And as another part of this is a way to get more people interested or get more people who are curious about Arduin into Arduin, we're offering the backstock at a discount if you add it on as an item. And I think these are things that, I mean, them and we know them now, but you have to be conscious of saying them, right? I think one of the hardships we really have is the best way to sell something is to hit all 3 notes. You have to tell somebody it's the greatest thing in the world. You have to show them it's the greatest thing in the world. And then you have to put it in their hand. And the internet takes that last one away. So you really have to over-inform and you have to over-educate. But you also have to say things simply and plainly and put that out there so people go, oh. I think I saw where there was somebody who had made a comment who then backed out of the project because cowards are everywhere. Yeah. And that's okay. But that's somebody who's not going to, who if they come back and they want it later, they're going to pay more later. And I think that's something to point out to people and say, listen, if you're on the fence about, I'm not sure if I want to back this. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I understand that completely. I do. I totally understand that. But be aware of where we're going to go MSRP on all these items. And it wouldn't hurt to do a chart, right? Like, this is the Kickstarter price, and this is what the MSRP is going to be after it's released.
Correct.
And let them have the oh shit moment. And
that's why we did it in the frequently asked question, but we should highlight that more. And I know the comment you're talking about, that individual gave $1 and made a comment, and I'll just say it, about, hey guys, are you going to be doing anything digital? And if you saw my response, we're like, hey, thank you. We are actually considering it. We're going to take a look into it, and we'll let you know the decision. And what I thought was surprising is then they disappeared, and it's like,
you'll not have my $1.
Yeah.
I'll not have it.
And they took the $1 back, and it was like, well, we just told you we were looking into it, and we're probably, we're looking into it, and we'll let you know.
I'm going to recline on my settee and contemplate your misery and woe over my taking my $1 away.
I mean, $1 is listen, there were Kickstarters I backed for $1 just so I can get the update, because I think they're going to be, I don't know, like a trash fire. And I want to make sure I know what's going on, but I don't take the $1 back. It's kind of like I'm going to put my $1 into you guys a question. I got my answer.
What was the strange thing is they were asking about digital, and you see the comment there, Jim, that I
did, but come on, right?
It was like, we just told you we're talking about it, and I said we will let you know once we resolve it.
You didn't answer me quickly enough.
We've noticed some very weirdness with the Kickstarter. People.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're saying that people who back Kickstarters might be slightly weird?
Yeah.
Never.
Well, this is our first Kickstarter, Jim, so we're kind of like, new to all this.
Oh, welcome to the pool. It's deep and it's full.
Yeah. People will give, and then they'll back off like an hour later. And it's like, okay, I get it. People have circumstance, but it's like, okay, why go through all that trouble just to back off? But it's fine. We're
George, Dave, you can't take any of this personally, right?
No,
the wingnut woke
very
up.
Famously, Frog God Games no longer does $1. We don't do the $1 store thing anymore because inevitably the $1. Hey, you want to just help us out? Give us $1. The guy that would buy it just wants to bitch and be a piece of garbage. And seriously, we got rid of it.
Nothing good comes from the $1 backers. Never. Never.
Because they
look at all the failed Kickstarter projects that Eric backed for $1. He's been the biggest pain in their backsides ever since. Do you think Ken Whitman would take away that $1 backer if he could? Abso-freaking-lutely.
Yeah, I don't harass them on their Kickstarter. I'm just, covering the black side. I don't know what's worse, actually, come to think of it, but I mean,
here's your $1, sir, and here's another $1.
I would gladly pay $2 to have never had you back my Kickstarter.
Oh man.
No tip.
That's it, Dave. Guys, the next time I see you at North Texas, I'm going to give you each $1 to make up for that horrible.
We've doubled your
But what's funny is you can't get rid of that. Kickstarter automatically puts the $1.
That's right. Come on. But if that's the only thing that haunts you in a Kickstarter project as the creator, you, my friend, are unbelievably lucky.
Yeah. No.
Lucky. Jesus.
No, we're learning.
Well, it's our first, so
I'm gonna give you each $1 and just that'll take some of the sting away.
And
good Lord.
And it's just a quick note, just as another little piece of the history of Arduin. In 2000, Dave and I went to Gen Con 2000. And if you look on the Kickstarter, you'll see a gentleman who came to our booth named
Careful.
Gary Gygax.
The IP police might be watching.
Which is fine. We talked to Luke. We talked to Luke, and he was fine because what we thought was interesting is Gary held up a map. He talked to us. He signed our player's handbook at Gen Con. He took pictures with our miniatures. He was excellent with us. He talked about Arduin.
That's wonderful.
So here we have Gary Gygax with a picture with him holding Arduin with the Arduin logo and our miniatures behind him. Who has that? We couldn't do it. We could not use that on the Kickstarter. And then 24 years later, or 22, when we went to GaryCon 14, we had Luke come by the booth there, which we were with Blackblade and Goodman Games.
Yep.
And Luke took a picture with the map, and we thought, how awesome is that to have that history? That's why we talk about it in our story, which I hope a lot of people read because it is interesting, Jim. I know a lot of people might skip it, but read the history that's there. It tells you about the original map.
Yeah, Chris Herrera brought them over, and it was really great.
So I think one of the things that you should think about, one of the things I'd throw out as far as updates go, like I think you can do updates that are also content. And I think one of the things that you can do is talk about the journey that the maps have made, right? Because the maps weren't just drawn on a table and then handed to George and Dave. There's a longer story here that involves Hargrave's passing, his estate, who owned everything, and all the rest of that. And I think that that's the kind of thing that, you know, I would make it a backers only, right? If you want to read this, you need to back, because I'm interested in that kind of stuff, right? We're all interested in that earlier history of role-playing games that a lot of it's apocryphal, but having some sort of idea. I mean, you guys have had your hands on things for almost 25 years, but there was 25 years before that, or 20 years before that. Yeah. And I think that's the kind of stuff that's also interesting to hear. You know, when you first got them, did they come out of a tube? Were they in an envelope? Did they just fall out on the desk? And there's a great story. Do you remember Gary Hart's presidential campaign that blew up after the National Enquirer got pictures?
I do.
Okay. So the National Enquirer got a call that somebody had a picture of Gary Hart with this young woman sitting on his lap. And the guy who was the editor of the National Enquirer told the story. Years later, he told the story, and he said, you know, when it came down to it, we finally had a meeting in Florida, and we went to a penthouse. We went to a hotel, and we met in a penthouse, and it was me, the editor, the National Enquirer's lawyer, the person who owned the picture, and their lawyer. And after all the back and forth on the phones without having seen anything, they said, okay, how much do you want? And the guy said, I want $1 million. And they said, let's see the picture. And they put the picture down, and he said, you have a deal. And he said later, in his head, he's like, I would have paid 10 times as much because the picture was that good. And he said, and I knew how many copies of the National Enquirer we were going to sell, and it sold. They made their money back on that picture 100-fold. Mm-hmm. And when you see the maps coming out of the envelope, or you see the maps coming out of it, you must have just had those goosebumps that just sort of wash over you. And tell that story. We want to hear that story.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much, Jim Kitchen, for relating Gary Hart, 1980s presidential candidate, with Arduin. It never has been done, and never will be done again. But it was done. It was done here on the show tonight. And
brilliantly, I might add.
It was great seeing y'all. Have a good night. I'm leaving.
Just hang it up. I mean, July 4th is tomorrow. I know it's a big day for you, Jim. Just go ahead and get an early start with that and the memes, and you've already done it. No, but what Jim said is true. I'm sorry. Go. I didn't mean to interrupt, but go ahead.
Tell us
what was that like? What was that like?
Yeah.
Go ahead, George.
You want me to?
Come on, George.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you this real quick. I'll slip this in while George contemplates his thoughts.
Oh, jeez.
So the dungeons, a lot of them came in just old school folders, like an orange folder, a blue folder, whatever, and they had a label on them that just said, the name of the dungeon. And you'd look at it, and there'd be 4, 5, 6, 7 of them in there. And then they were in those plastic sleeves, and the sleeves were glossy sleeves, so all the ink was kind of half sticking to the sleeves and peeling off of the paper. And sometimes there was more than one piece of paper in each sleeve. And when you got them, they were all unorganized. Some of them were organized, a lot of them weren't, and you just had to crawl through them and sort through them. Like Skull Tower right now is capped at around 42 maps, I think. So if you picture the larger dungeons that you find in other games, this is 42 Hargravian maps of just one dungeon. And it's 18 levels with alternate levels and levels that may or may not exist, and levels that go up, levels that go down. And it's just crazy. And then you sit there and you stare at the traps and you're like, how on earth did he do this? You know, and he only did this all in a span of 10 years. I mean, it might take a person a lifetime just to do those 42 maps. That's just one dungeon. Now there's over 100 dungeons. And those are just the small 8.5 by 11s. Now you got to go to here's the 2 foot by, 18-inch dungeons. And you're like, there's 12 of those. Then there's the bigger ones. Then there's the continental maps. There's 4 or 5 continent maps. Then there's, islands. Then there's stuff just not labeled, and piles and piles and piles and more. And you're just like, you're just overwhelmingly crushed. It's insane to think that anybody could write, thousands of items, hundreds of dungeons. Every dungeon has, 20, 30 different gods named on them. Not every dungeon, but most of them, and they're not just the everyday run-of-the-mill ones. And you're like, how could he possibly come up with these names? How could he come up with all these, gates that are in each dungeon? Like, I could be in, Iron Wall, and the next thing I know, I'm walking up a stairwell and I'm on level 16 of Skull Tower, and you don't know. It's crazy. Like, I don't know how you could possibly come up with that much in such a short span of time. Like, he could possibly only been writing 15 years, maybe.
It was just as Dave said, the experience is unbelievable. It's like you're opening up boxes of relics for a museum that you're putting together, and you're going through all this material, and it's just mind-boggling, like Dave said, that you're looking at this material and you're just astonished on how much material there is, how much description, how much detail. And this guy, from our understanding, what Dave would do, Dave was in Vietnam for about 6-7 years. He was a combat photographer. He worked for the intelligence agency. Part of his thing, when we say his life was cut short, I believe it was because of the Agent Orange, some of the stuff, unfortunately, that he got from Vietnam that kind of destroyed his body. But this guy was shaped by a lot of his experiences. And when you look at the material that this guy did for a release, we were told from the family members and people we've talked to, he would take pieces of graph paper, numerous, and he would just pen. He would pen dungeons, traps. He'd put descriptions, names. He would write things right on the dungeons and run it right from the pieces of paper, the maps that he made. And when you look at his material, you're astonished. I mean, literally, like I said, boxes and boxes of thousands of item cards with pictures on one side and descriptions of them items on the other, just in all these cards. And you're looking at history. Like I said, it's like a museum, relics from the past that you're going through. Meticulously, we're taking out maps, and we have to be careful, make sure there's no drinks, nothing around, watch how we're doing it. I mean, I watch when Dave opens up folders and we're like, a little piece of the map might fall out. We grab that little piece to make sure. So the best way I can have the analogy to it, Jim, is like, think of a museum that has relics that may not be in the greatest shape, but they're taking every bit of precaution they can to put it together. And you're just astonished at the amount of material that you have and the history. I mean, the guy did play-by-mail war games. He did.
Yeah, there's a whole nother pile of stuff. Like, there's a whole nother continent there, and you're like, oh my God. And it's not just ancients, it's fantasy ancients.
Yeah.
And you're like, how did he do this map too? And then there's stacks, literally, of play-by-mail notes with more maps in them showing, here's the tactical battle, here's what you're doing, give the orders of your generals. like the old Hyborian War one. I can't remember the name of the company that does it out in Arizona.
Yeah. He took like the Mediterranean, like old ancient Rome, the whole thing, and he did historical, but then fantasy. He put different provinces. He threw in a ton of fantasy, so you have this beautiful ancient Rome Mediterranean map that's not only historical, but it's fantasy that he built and used for a play-by-mail. Like I said, to me, it's like a curator of museum getting boxes and boxes of precious material, and you're going through it, and you're awed by it, and you're trying to keep it organized. And it's going through the material, saying, "Oh, do these dungeon levels go with this? Can we relate to it?" And then as you're going through it, like Dave said, my God, there's another religion, gray dwarfs. What's that? Or this creature, that creature. He had notes on all types of stuff that were on these maps. So you have little nuggets. You talk about Easter eggs all over within these maps. The way he did traps, the way he did gates. It's just an
And what's stranger yet is that's not all of it. There's at least 6, 7 more country maps out there that we have no idea how to track down.
Yeah. We've accumulated as much as we can, but we know that some of it is lost.
Dungeon maps that he's made for other people as gifts. There's cards. They used to do cards all the time. And from what we understand, like at the gaming table, if you got an item, you'd get a card. And if you sold it to the big trading companies, well, those cards could cycle through all the players. So they were one of a kind. So.
Yeah, he had the multiversal trading company in his game, and we use an Arduin. So there was all types of things that were connected to the game. I'll tell you another thing. We've been talking with the family. We're going to try to get more material about Dave Hargrave. There's letters from him to his mom, letters in the family. We're trying to get our hands, and I hope to God we can get our hands on it. There's reportedly letters from Gary Gygax to Dave Hargrave. And we are trying desperately to get our hands on those. Can you imagine correspondence between the father of role play and Dave Hargrave?
And I think this really lends itself to, I don't try to suggest things that cost a lot of money, but I think certainly one of the things to think about it at some point is, when Goodman did the really great first volume on Judges Guild, on early Judges Guild, I think it was a real credit to sort of pull the curtain back a little and give people better insight into how things were at Judges Guild back in the 70s when it was new. I think it's interesting to think about, if you can get a hold of Dave Hargrave's correspondence and you can share that with people in a way that gives them a peek behind the curtain. It certainly sounds like one of the things that you're blessed and cursed with is you've got all this material, right? And there's the people who are interested in Arduin, which I would say was more people than the people interested in play-by-mail.
Yeah.
I was only ever in one play-by-mail game. And that's enough. But it also has an important part in the late 70s. People were playing games by mail. They couldn't find folks to play with and so on and so forth. And I think a retrospective of how Hargrave thinks or how Hargrave saw himself in that role within the industry and so on and so forth, I think that's something that's very marketable, that's very interesting. And the maps lend themselves to this, right? He was clearly a map guy. He was clearly a map guy.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things where you can talk about that with people. It's like being a miniatures guy, right? Like people look at you and they're like, why would I not just use paper miniatures? I don't understand you. I don't understand. You are a 2-dimensional person in a 3-dimensional world. I have no idea how you even breathe. I don't understand. But there are those people, and I respect their choices that are wrong, but I don't fault them for it because they have brain damage, and that's okay too.
And if it's a miniature, it has to be pewter, Jim. We're pewter miniatures. All metal, baby.
All metal. Plastic molds are expensive, right? Molds are expensive.
Yeah.
Lead, baby.
Yep.
Oh, look, I
Yes.
just got. I
If
tried
there's
to
not a chance of brain
How did we
damage,
not
from
develop
poisoning.
all kinds of cancers on our hands when we're touching these when we were kids and moving them around the table? Well, we had a guy that used to hold his miniature like that during the game. I always wanted to know if he has like a big, canker sore on his.
Oh, the greatest
hand
story
up
I
there.
can tell you: the Gaines Workshop store in Laurel, Maryland. I went there one time like a year or two before I started working for Gaines Workshop, and they had an old miniature sale. And what they literally did is they dumped buckets of cast miniatures into a giant, almost barrel. And if you wanted all the pieces, you were going to have to dig for it. And
Oh my
this
God.
was lead. It was all lead. And there were guys whose entire hands and arms were black from
my God.
lead from where they were digging out pieces. And you just took one look at this and was like, if OSHA walks in, they're shutting you down.
And they probably went out later and had a hamburger without washing their hands.
That's right.
We need pictures of that.
Oh, God, it was
See,
awful.
It only took us about a year or so, and we quickly went to a lead-free. Well, there was the big lead scare way back in the early 2000s.
I was working at Gaines Workshop in
Yeah.
1993. I
Yeah.
am familiar.
98, we went to a lead-free pewter that we've used this whole time. So
Yeah.
we use a very exclusive lead-free pewter that is very strong. We love, and again, Jim, we looked into the plastics. We looked at all the 3D. To us, we're old school. It's a metal miniature sculpted.
Amen.
That's
yeah.
the way.
Well,
Oh, yes.
the
metal is expensive
plastic.
as hell, but we love it. We love it.
One second. Be right back.
No problem. But
Yeah, plastic that's no way to go. And yeah, I think they made a good decision there. I think especially since you're marketing a product that's pretty. I mean, it's basically an old school product geared towards old school audiences, and I think they're going to appreciate pewter definitely over plastic.
No, absolutely. No, that's interesting. No, I'm. You know what? I'm happy we could. Especially with Jim, I didn't realize he wasn't familiar with Arduin, so it's great. We love educating more and more people, Jim, with Arduin and just the history and everything about it. So
every role-playing game is its own cult, and I'm okay with that, right? Don't ask what you can do for Arduin. Ask what Arduin can do for you.
We are the cult.
Do you like maps? We got
That
maps.
wasn't art, was it?
Yeah. Remember, we're the punk rock of the industry. We were always Arduin was always the black sheep of the industry. So we are the cult.
How are you the black sheep, right? Come on. There are so many other companies that we will not name tonight that are so further ahead of you. Like, you've just got anti-disestablishmentarianism. Like, they have racism.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, no, I think he meant in the aspect of, like I was talking about earlier, how the Midwestern gamers always look down the West Coast. Well, Alarms and Excursions was based on the West Coast, like Gold, and
Lee
so
Gold,
if you read Lee Gold, I'm sorry, Lee Gold. If you read it, there's a letter in the first few issues where Gary is going effusive in his praise for this magazine. This is so great. You've gotten together and got all these articles. This is so wonderful and this is amazing. And then like maybe 15 issues later, it's like, yeah, I don't like any of this. You guys are doing things that aren't in the rule book. You need to stop doing it. And then like 15 issues after that, it's like, you better stop now or I'm going to sue your ass. This is garbage. I mean, and so at that point, the worse Gary gave it to them, the worse they gave it back. Like, oh yeah, well we're going to do, you know what? We're going to do this then. We're going to have guys with machine guns.
I never would have thought we would have drawn the analogy between role-playing game Midwest versus West Coast and East-West rap rivalries of the early 2000s.
Big time,
and yet here we are.
Big time. But it was, and I think a lot of the outlaw punk rock, aesthetic that they're talking about came because these guys, once they started having it out with Gary, and those issues are hilarious to read. I mean, Gary really does get into it. He's just not happy about that. And they printed the letter. They say, here's what Gary sent us. And we basically told Gary, we're going to keep publishing. So people were like, well, if Gary doesn't like this, I'm going to make a character that's called the porn mancer. I mean, they would just make these crazy characters just to, if in case he flipped through there, he would just get madder and madder. And so I think a lot of that aesthetic is in there, is that let's just do whatever D&D isn't doing right now. And we're going to just be so far out there that it's just going to make his blood boil. But it all made, but it was good. It was good stuff. Like, I mean, somebody mentioned earlier the air sharks. Air sharks are awesome. And
I was waiting to bring up the air sharks.
Why doesn't D&D have air sharks? That's the coolest thing ever. Now it has.
As soon as I saw the miniatures where you have a character riding an air shark, I was in.
Air sharks are great, and so they did this kind of thing, and so it was kind of the black sheep of the gaming family. And I know where I came from, the DFW area. I didn't know anybody that played Arduin. I met in college. We had two big groups. We had the D&D group and we had the RuneQuest group. For some reason, RuneQuest was big at my college, but nobody talked about, played, knew anything about Arduin, except that every once in a while somebody would have an Arduin Grimoire or one of the books, like the Shadowlands or something. They go, yeah, did you see this book? I'm like, oh yeah, I've read that.
It's really cool.
It's got cool ideas and stuff. I go, yeah, but man, this is just too far out. You can't play this game, can you? I mean, this is just too crazy. And they would go on and on. And I'm like, well, I mean, you can use parts of it. And people would just get all like, yeah, but you can't play it, right? I mean, and I'm like, I guess you can play it. I don't know. But anyway, so it has a well-deserved reputation, but it is, as you said earlier, Dave Hargrave has been vastly overlooked. And I mentioned earlier, and I'm actually not joking about this. Somebody really needs to write a book about West Coast gaming, because there are half a dozen books about Midwest gaming. My God, there are so many books now about Gary and Dave and what was going on in Lake Geneva, and what was at this point it's turning into minutia. Yeah, Jim's about ready to die because it's turning into minutia. And, where did Gary go
on the 23rd of June in 1975, Gary went to the bathroom and was accosted by Dave Arneson.
They went on vacation one year to whatever, but the stuff that Dave did and the stuff that other West Coast gamers did is really overlooked, but it really had an influence on gaming, and not just D&D gaming, but a lot of different kinds of gaming. And it's a very overlooked part of the history of RPGs, but it should be. And I'll tell you, one of the coolest things is when I started buying the Arduin books was finding Errol Otis art in it, because one of my favorite artists of all time, and a lot of his first work was in the Arduin books. He had some really, really good drawings in there.
People don't. That's a great point, Mike, and I forget that too sometimes. And just so you know, Jim, Earl Otis, guess where he started? Was Arduin. He did the original Arduin Grimoire cover.
Oh, and I am familiar. I've sold a few.
Yeah. I mean, Earl Otis, Bichio Okamura, who did Diablo, came from Arduin. Greg Espinozo, Roland Brown, who's working with us as our art director. I mean, there's some other artists in there too. They all got their beginnings with Arduin, with Dave Hargrave. I
love that we've now decided it's the Russ Meyer of role-playing games, because this brings a lot of things to mind, right? Like I got Sharknado, I got Air Sharknado, I've got plush characters, and that's as far as I'm going down that path, right? Like, I'm sorry, but there should be an Arduin like Russ Meyer poster of some kind, right? Attack of the Air Sharks.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I really like this picture here, because if you look closer, this guy's got a machine gun, which is absolutely on target for Arduin.
On point.
So you have this, they have this great, fantasy, quote unquote, fantasy drawing, and then you look at it closer, like, he's got a machine gun. Okay, that's awesome.
And we have D&D. When you talked about these pictures on the other live stream, when you guys were talking about art and how it invokes. Inspired,
right, yes.
You guys were talking about WotC and that whole.
Okay, well, no. We weren't talking about WotC, guys. We were ripping WotC because their art is so uninspired and so undynamic and so boring that
And when Eric brought this up, you look at this and you see the city scene. Like I said, you see everything there. You have a machine gun, like you said. You have the sword. You have the Fraint warrior here. You have
what's this? Look at this blue dude here. This blue dude's awesome.
I mean, that's your Fraint warrior. You have the mage. You have in the back a halfling. If you look up here, look, there's somebody there. You know, who's that? What are they doing up there? You have this whole aesthetic to this. And then if you notice on the background, you know, it's showing something over here in the background. Well, when you put the other picture up, look what you're looking at. You're looking like at the back end. You see what I mean? And then you look up here. Oh, who's this up here? That's a homage to Dave Hargrave sitting there penning. You got someone pickpocketing. You have a drunk Sareg, which is a lizard man. You have a Deodant. You have a half orc here. But when you look, oh, that's the Frank warrior and the warrior who are in the first part of the picture. And then when you go up here, oh, who's this guy? Looks like a thief running out. And there's someone else there, I think, over. There's so much that evokes a day in the life, I think, how you said it, Eric. And like I said, we want to give that to the players. Have your imagination open up. Look at the scenes. Look at the things. You can have
you guys screwed up, though, because we should have had him sitting down eating scones at the table, you know, with scones and coffee. And I think that would have been much more evocative, because that way when I wanted to play my barista character, I would be able to, you know, have some inspiration for that. So, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah,
you want to evoke fantasy. You want to evoke any fantasy. I mean, any genre, whatever you want. You want players. You want to give players things that get their imagination going. I've said this before. Arduin is a canvas, and you paint what you want. Arduin is a open, clear canvas, and you paint it the way you want it. Let your imagination flow, and you put that paint there the way you want it. I want to create a campaign. I want to do this with my world. And again, the books, it starts with a map. It starts with a vision. And that's the whole concept why we, rolling back to the Kickstarter, wanted to start with maps. We want to give you that inspiration, you know, give you the book that has 1,300 freaking names. You want a mountain name? You got it. You want a river? You want a town? You want a dungeon? Something cool. The Great Burn, you know, the Misty Sea, blah, blah, blah. It's all here. It just gets your juices going no matter what you're using it for. And then eventually, we hope, once you get interested, next year, Arduin, Bloody Arduin, we're going to come out with David Hargrave's Magnus Opus, his final system, something that we hope people will enjoy and use for their role-play games. So it's everything. It's a little bit of everything. And you can see me with my Italian coming out, and the hands are going, and the passion is coming out. But, yeah, but like I said, it's a labor of love. I've said it earlier. It's a labor of love. We sink everything into it. We want it to be the best. And Jim, we appreciate all types of comments, all types of, you know, feedback, because it makes us better, and we appreciate that. If we're misstepping, if we're missing something, let us know. We're straight shooters. Just say, hey, Dave, George, you guys, you may think of doing it this way or tweaking this, or you know,
I don't think our role here is to really just sort of ask you questions to get more information to the people who watch. And more than anything else, the great thing about this show is that, you know, all of our bullshitting aside, it gives you a chance to talk about the heart of the project. It gives you a chance to talk about what motivated you to bring it to Kickstarter, what it is that you were thinking in the packages you put together for the campaign, and your thoughts. And that's stuff that frankly, you're going to walk away from tonight, and you're going to go, oh, we ought to do this, and we ought to do this, and we ought to put this in, and so on and so forth, and give people those peeks behind the curtain, and so on and so forth. I think Eric, Mike, and I all come at Kickstarters the same way. Number one, nobody is ever going to be on this show that we don't want to see succeed. You're in the enviable position where you're already 100% full. You're 100% funded currently, and you have weeks to go on the campaign, which is fabulous, right? Because now what you do is you just build momentum. Number two, you've already addressed really and truly the thing that people have hesitancy about Kickstarters, and I don't know if I want to back this. Will I ever get anything for this? You know, are these pencil dice? Because they look like they could be pencil. No, but you've already addressed that, right? And that's something that takes away again some of the stigma that has been attached to a lot of Kickstarting projects. I think, you know, one of the things that's really clear, number three, is that you are passionate about the product. We have all seen Kickstarter creatives who are like, and this is what I think you'll enjoy, or maybe you won't. I have no time for that, right? If you can't sell me on your product, if you can't sell me in your demeanor and your excitement, what the hell? And then finally, what you have unknowingly hit on, you have hit on the single most successful thing that we see in any sort of RPG project, which is you have to have a single unique and strange monster. And so if Shadow Dark has sting bats, you have these flying shark things, and I'm I can only get so aroused, and yet somehow the flying sharks have got me to a new point of arousal. And that's a little alarming. I'm glad the camera's up a little higher. I need to be embarrassed. I'm not standing. But flying sharks, you had me at flying sharks.
We even have hammerhead sharks.
God, please.
If it lasts for more than 12 hours, Jim, you need to see
my
it consistent.
Don't forget the riders.
Yeah.
Gray Goblins.
And the one of the modules in the Vaults of the Weaver called Citadel of Thunder, the Knights of Thunder ride them. They're gray goblins that are called the Knights of Thunder. They're carnivorous, and they they ride the air sharks, and then the sharks eat whatever they catch.
You've got to do a Russ Meyer movie homage poster for Arduin. It needs to have the goblins riding sharks. It needs to have the vampire thing we were discussing earlier, but don't do the inflatable dolls.
Medusa.
Yes, the vampire Medusa. I'm not going to say the name because I'll get it wrong and then we'll be in trouble. All of these things, like this needs to be like a really great Russ Myers movie poster because that's what Arduin is, right?
Yeah.
So somebody said something about they said, what is this compatible with? And here's what's so great about Arduin. So it's not written like a regular game book in terms of basically you get the original trilogy, but it's not like the D&D trilogy. There's each volume of the digest adds something to the world, and you could choose to add it or not. But here's the great thing. So I'm just flipping through Shadowlands here, which is the number 7.
Yeah.
And this is stuff you can add to any campaign. It doesn't have to be. So here's one section. Arduinian felines. It gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different kinds of cats that live on Arduin. So you have the Motleys, the Night Paws, the Sky Cats, the Tiger Cats. I mean, so that's just one thing. You could throw that into any campaign. You could throw that in your campaign. You could use it with OD&D. You could use it with anything. Here's another later on alchemical stuff. You have Arhu's Hungry Fog Spheres. These very evocative names. Cambruse's Century Sand. Hunzager's Ironsides Lotion. And these are all magic items and lotions that do different things. You have new treasures, artifacts, and other arcane items. The Amulet of Arcane Might, Assassin Sticks. So every book was kind of like this. You had the original 3 books with the rules, and then every single book that came after would just add something. It adds monsters, magic spells, locations, just everything you can imagine, which makes it really easy just to pick one of these up if you're stuck for, if you're trying to write something, you're stuck for just something to just click something in your head. Pick one of these and flip through it. You'll find something in there that you'll say, that's cool. I'm going to steal that. I mean, I'm going to borrow that and put that in my campaign. I'm going to change the name up though, but Dave had a great idea here. I'm going to do this. Yeah, and so really when you say what could you use it for, you could use it for any version of role-playing game, really, particularly anything D&D, especially old school D&D. It really fits in with old school D&D.
If you're looking, and I know there's some questions in the chat there, it is compatible with any version of D&D. You're going to have an AC, you're going to have hit points, it's going to give you some damage. I could grab any book right now, or like Mike said, he can go into that book, he'll read you off some stats. It's generic enough that it's going to give you the basics,
absolutely,
but it's going to have a cool name. It's going to have some weird, cool power, whether it's a magic item or it's a spell or it's a creature that you can fit into any game that you wish. So it is highly compatible with any of the old school versions, any of the flavor of D&D. You could pretty much also modern D&D, it'll fit into too. I mean, there's more to modern D&D. They have so much now attached to it, but it's generic. Any of the old books, I promise you, they're generic enough, but also they're very cool. There's no way you read even a single Arduin book and are not impressed with ideas or thoughts from that. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm just sitting there reading. I don't even want to listen to these guys anymore because I'm like, oh man, this is all. I mean, I'm sitting here flipping through this, going, maybe Jim will talk some more, and I can just read this because I just flipped to a section. It's called the Night Nails. These are basically, this one section has all these different assassins, and it gives you the names, and I'm just like, oh my god, I can use some of these assassins.
I'm terrified to think of what the assassins are like in Arduin.
Well, how about Danichel Markovich, a female human about 24 years old with gray eyes and very short light black hair, about 5'9" to 5'10" tall, 140 pounds. She's the group leader of the trio, nicknamed the Bitch Patrol.
Yep.
by the Arduin secret police, who have posted a 30,000 GS reward for her head. She's known for her habit of castrating men and then nailing the detached piece for the victim.
So you've just created the movie poster for Faster Arduin Kill. Faster Arduin Kill.
He has the following attributes. I don't want to run into her at all. I don't want to see her come anywhere near her.
I think some of us dated her at some point.
I think I'm putting her in my next campaign because I want my players to run into her.
No, that's a great. So there's somebody's actually put this up. We'll say it again. You're already funded past your $7,000 goal. You're at 7647. You've got 60 backers, the vast majority of which are going for the larger package of the two. There's only a $10 difference, and frankly, why anybody wouldn't get the hand rolled, I'll never know. So when will you sort of talk about the stretch goal? Are you going to get another week or two under your belt? Is that when you're starting to think about moving towards with the stretch goal?
We were actually hoping to have a decision tonight, but it just couldn't happen.
Yeah,
going on.
You're probably pretty much on, Jim. It'll probably take us about a week. The neck over 4th of July here in the weekend. Dave and I have to look at it and analyze how we're going to do it. But I think we are going to do something digital for the maps because, just like all of you stated in other inquiries, it makes sense.
I mean, again, and I used this line earlier, I'm going to use it again. As someone else who was born in the 1900s, yes, these newfangled computer things that people talk to each other over the internet, yes, I think it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Yes. We already killed dice bags. There's no dice bags.
Yeah.
No dice bags.
And I just want to say, again, I know we just, no dice bags, no worries.
We killed dice.
We talked about, just so you know, and this is a little behind the curtain, we talked about, even for the big Kickstarter for the core books next year and all that. And we talked about, do we do dice? Do we do it? And we're like, you know what? Everybody has dice. What are we going to do? Just churn one of the numbers into a, no, everybody has their own dice. We're not doing dice.
Tell me more of this infinite warehouse you have that's like the TARDIS that you can have all of these things in. Tell me of this gigantic warehouse. I love to hear about your aircraft hangar-sized warehouse. You have all this room in, and how you love keeping track of thousands of individual SKUs. Tell me more of this dreamland of yours.
I know. Unbelievable. So we're like, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. So we want to simplify things. We like throwing unique things out there or cool things, but some of it is just like, no, it doesn't make sense. It's not practical, not cost effective. It's not different. Everybody has dice.
We're going to do an Arduin tire jack. It's going to be amazing and useful.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
I do that, Jim, and say,
what the hell?
As a freebie, we'll throw in a tire jack that says Emperor's Choice and Arduin on it.
Ooh.
Hey,
we got in touch with Stanley, and we have an entire pallet of demo hammers that we're branding as Arduin. So you can wreck whatever rule systems you've been working, and you can bring Arduin to the table.
Yeah.
It's like step into a Slim Jim, but with role-playing games.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, it is. It is. So we try to think outside the box, but
we destroy the box. We chew our way out of the box.
That's right. Hey, but for
because we have guns.
Anybody in the chat, talking about what Arduin is or what you can do. It's compatible again. If you do D&D, which 90% of the industry does a flavor of D&D, to be honest. Everything else is a sliver of a sliver. The Arduin books, mine them just like everybody else did. Like I said, the industry, even Jonathan Tweet, who was the main designer for 3rd edition D&D, said the Arduin Grimoire was the coolest RPG book ever. So Arduin has influenced everything, even 4th edition. I know 4th edition, even modern 5th edition, Arduin's had his influence. So you're going to find something in the Arduin books that you're going to think is cool. I guarantee it. I don't think I've ever met somebody who hasn't gotten an Arduin book who hasn't found something like, oh, that's cool.
My God, the paper tracks you must hand out at conventions must just be amazing.
Yeah.
Right? This is just,
Yeah. No,
we're in. We're all in.
There's a lot. There's a lot there, Jim, that we can connect to. A lot of different things, a lot of different people.
Okay, so when does the Kickstarter end?
The Kickstarter started July 1st. It ends July 30th. So we have about 4 more weeks. Yeah. We've only been 3 days in. It's only been,
Yeah, but you're funded. You're funded at day 3.
Yeah.
I mean, there are projects from famous game designers that, thought they were funded and then it all fell apart in tears. You're fine. You're good.
And we, like I said, we guarantee everything. We think the packaging's cool. The tubes, again, seem to be real popular.
The tubes are sexy. The tubes are really sexy. And I didn't think I'd get to say that tonight. I never get to say the tubes are sexy.
Oh, God.
Hardly got a little video of the tube, but I don't know if George has it.
The what?
The video of the tube.
Oh,
I don't think I can handle the video of the tube.
Hold on, wait a minute.
Oh, God.
Puts the size into perspective.
You're going to turn us into NC-17.
Papers over here thinking about that tube.
I'm ready for this. This should be very, very good to me.
Hold on, baby.
Well, if Arduin is the punk RPG, I need to know what the third wave ska RPG is from the 90s.
Oh, I think that's Builds and Vigilantes. I think. No, I don't know.
Ooh.
Pull that out of my. I think Champions. No,
hold on. Let me see if I can.
Well, while George is looking for that, let me tell you, guys, thanks for having us on all these times. And as an ode to you guys for doing that, I'd like to let you know we put a little Easter egg on the Arduin map for Tenkar and Mike.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay.
Well, now I'm gonna have to search it tomorrow. I'm gonna be like,
yeah.
I
gotta find bad. I gotta look for Bad Mike's hellhole or whatever. It's whatever you
might not find it. I don't know.
Oh dear.
Tenkar's is easy to find.
I'm gonna try.
Well, it's got to be a tavern. It's got to be a tavern. Tenkar's has to.
Right? Yeah. We didn't change that one just because
God, I can finally use Arduin to bring to life all the Andy Sedaris movies I used to love in the 90s.
Oh. I'll be honest with you guys. Now, seriously, I as much as I love I really, to me, Arduin has always worked better with just pulling stuff out of it and putting in my game. Because I've always been a kind of guy. Yes, I adventured in Greyhawk when I was younger and Forgotten Realms. But about 93, 94, I said, I really just need to be. I have my own world here. Let's just do my own world, but let's make it unique. Let's not make it Tolkien or Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk. And I will admit, I pulled a lot of stuff out of Arduin because I would pull like the poisons. There's a whole huge thing. The Arduin goes into detail about poisons. It really, whereas D&D was just like, there's poison A, B, C, D, and E. And this was like, no. These poisons have names and different effects. They do stuff. I love stuff like that. So I use the poisons. I use all kinds of stuff. I think they work really well if you're running a game and you don't say, well, just pull stuff out. Pull the magic items out. I mean, and like I can't remember who said this earlier, but the magic items, like if you look at one of my favorite D&D things is the Encyclopedia Magica, which has every magic item that ever appeared in any D&D product from 72 through 94, and those are great to pull off the shelves. And it's a 4-volume set. You look through there. There's different arrows, but everything in there. It's like, okay, here's an arrow that causes sleep. Here's an arrow that causes flame. Here's an arrow that causes... I mean, it's just kind of the same thing. The Arduin and magic items are not like that. You read the description, and they have their own like there's things, and I can't remember. They're like they're shurikens, but they're not shurikens. They're these round bones or something. I mean, that it's everything they've taken. Dave has made it his own. I guess that's the best way of putting it. He's made it his own item. It's not just another arrow that does another. Oh, this arrow causes sleep, and this one causes whole person, and this one causes fireball. No. His stuff. Every item has a kind of unique little spot in his world, which I love because I like things like when I do magic items for my campaign, I don't have generic magic items. Everything has a purpose or a name or a special power because I just think magic should be special. And Dave, his stuff really, really shows that. All his magic items are very unique.
Yeah, even the non-magic items like the silks.
Oh yeah, yes. I mean, everything. He spent a lot of time. You know, he reminds me of a lot of Mr. Ed Greenwood does this a lot because I remember reading Ed Greenwood's Forgotten Realms stuff when it first started coming out, and I was always amazed because he would have these articles of Dragon Magazine. Like he had a whole article about the different kinds of trees in the Forgotten Realms. I'm like, who cares about the trees? Then I started reading about them. I was like, oh, this is pretty good. This is ironwood, and they use this to make boats. And so it was really interesting. And Ed Greenwood does that a lot. And I'd be interested. I don't know. I wonder if Ed spent a lot of time with the Arduin stuff because he has a very similar background thing where he develops things that are just really unique. And I really like Ed's some of Ed's magic items. Like he had a whole series in Dragon Magazine about swords. He would do 6 or 7 swords. And it'd be this long 4 or 5 paragraph thing. This is where this sword came from. It's not just a +1 sword. It's the scimitar of speed. And the hilt is slightly cracked and it's got something wrapped around it. And he would go into detail. I get that from Hargrave's Arduin also. Everything is unique and has a purpose and it's really interesting. And so I guess it's a long-winded way of just saying, buy these books, flip through them, find stuff you like. You don't have to use everything. Just find something you like.
There's definitely stuff for everyone.
For $200,
absolutely.
For $200, you could back the maps, get the first 8 Arduin books, and you'd be off to the races. And really and truly, there's not a lot of Kickstarters that for $200 would give you nearly as much as that.
It's a ton of material. And just so you know, like this is a hardcover that's part of the 9-book series. This is the first 3. You get this plus 8 other books.
Yeah.
And this has a whole adventure in it. It has the first 3 volumes of the Iron Grimoire.
That's the caveat out of the way. It's 6 inches by 10.
George, the public is demanding. George, the public is demanding you tell us Errol's story about White Plume Mountain.
Okay.
Yep.
Let me tell this story, and then Eric, just so you know, I got the video loaded up for the tubes.
Errol told us this story actually right at GaryCon.
At GaryCon, we met Errol Otis for the first time in 2022, a couple of years ago, and we talked to him because we've said this before. Earl Otis is going to do artwork for the new Arduin Bloody Arduin game next year. So he's already committed. We talked to him just a couple months ago. But anyways, GaryCon, we meet Errol Otis. We start talking to him. He talks about White Plume Mountain. He's the artist, obviously, who did the Overland page in White Plume Mountain, the one of the first that shows the mountain, shows the hut, shows an undead dragon, Drogoth, I think, is that undead dragon in the corner. He told us that was a homage to Dave Hargrave when he did that. And he said when he did that, because the TSR guys at the time had no idea what he was going to do, when he did that, he brought it to them and said, look, I did this. This is a homage to Dave Hargrave. It's an undead dragon. They looked at him like he had 3 heads. They had no idea what the hell, an undead dragon? What's that? And he was like, are you kidding me? He's like, in Arduin, that's nothing. Dave had undead dragons, shadow dragons. So he told us how back then TSR had no clue. The creativity, the expansion was like this. They were so, horse blinders onto kind of like what you said, Mike, where, they made games only a certain way. And he told us how the vision wasn't there. They were stumped by an undead dragon. I was like, really? We were stunned by that story. But that's the story behind White Plume Mountain.
And what's interesting about that is, you know who created undead dragons for D&D? Ed Greenwood. Ed Greenwood had the undead. That was one of the things that Forgotten Realms, the Cult of the Dragon, which is creation of his, was they worship undead dragons. So there's got to be a connection here, man. I've got to talk to Ed and ask about that.
I'm sure there is, because Dave
Absolutely has to be.
Hargrave, when you look at the first original books, he had shadow dragons, undead dragons. He had all types of, and that's what I'm saying. And Jim, you'll have to excuse me on it. Just when I talk about the history of Arduin, why so much came from Arduin, when you look at the Arduin books, I'm telling you, 99% of what you see in gaming throughout the years in current gaming was in the damn Arduin books. I'm really adamant about that. You'll be hard pressed to show me something. To tell you the truth, we found a couple golden nuggets that Dave put in the books that we're using in our system that we were shocked, like, Dave did that. Holy crap. And it's a couple different mechanical things, like, how did everybody miss that? That's brilliant. So it's amazing the stuff Dave did. I know I'm here getting passionate, but it's the truth. It's such the truth. Like you said, Mike, all the flavor. But it's amazing how Earl Otis said his imagination, his vision as an artist opened up with Dave Hargrave, because he started imagining more, how to do things more, how to think differently about the game. And at that time, I mean, I'm not trying to put a knock on TSR. My God, they did a lot. But they were in a naive stage because they weren't expanding things. Like I said that, I think I said this before on another live stream. D&D didn't do the whole package. Arduin did it all together in one system. What D&D did was, we have Boot Hill, we have Gamma World, we have Top Secret. They kind of broke it into different pieces. And then we have D&D. You know, D&D is our... Nothing wrong with that, obviously. Because they're
so D&D started out like the punk rock thing. I think fits very well, because D&D was kind of, but when AD&D came out, the purpose of AD&D was to create a unified system that could be played at conventions. And Gary said this, Tim Kaska said this. This is built in. This is basically, we need rules. OD&D is all over the place, and people. Gary's. What he said to Tim was, I go to a convention and I see 16 different people playing the game different ways. We need a unified system. So AD&D was created this unified system. And at that point, they started to kind of become corporate, because that's when Gary started having his articles about, you have to really play the game this way to play the game. You can't do what I said before and just play whatever you want. You really just need to play by AD&D rules and AD&D. And so the game, at that point, it was like 81, 82. The game started moving more and more corporate. They didn't they wouldn't have talked about different kinds of poisons, because that was kind of icky and things like that. They would have never had that character that I just read. No. Part of the bitch patrol that castrates people she doesn't like. No, that was not part of AD&D in the 80s.
Correct.
And so,
correct.
But Dave just kept rolling along with, nope, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm going to do. And so that kind of sets it apart. And the comparison between punk rock and corporate top 40, I think, is very well put here, because I think that's what you're looking at. You're looking at somebody that took OD&D, the lifestyle or the way OD&D was written, and just kept that up through the years. Didn't go back and say, no, I need to clean this up a little bit. I'm gonna make this nicer. Nope. It just kept going the same way all through the years, and that makes it a very interesting link between OD&D and the 80s. Whereas by the time you get to 1985 and Gary is booted out of TSR, nothing resembles anything that happened in 1972 at that point. By the time 1986 rolls around, you're playing a totally different game than you were in 1972, 74. Whereas with Dave's game, you're playing basically the same game, with there's just new added stuff in there every volume of the supplements.
Yeah, I mean, he did have some evolution too, where he was changing mechanics and combat.
And he would put that in there. Yeah, he would change mechanics, but that would be in there, like, okay, by the way, but it was never that you can't use the old way. It was just
you couldn't figure it out. He would tell you,
Yeah. He and one thing, Jim, when you look at the books, he evolved as the books progressed. He would evaluate, change, come up with new ideas. So you will find, and it's still a contention for us trying to do the new system, you'll find contradictions. things that don't make sense anymore because he evolved as a game master, as a developer, and came to new concepts, new ideas. So for us, it's kind of been a little bit, to be honest, hell trying to go through this to find the best parts to put together the things and get rid of the things that didn't work or are completely out of date. But it's brilliant. It's brilliant madness is what it is. Just complete brilliant madness is Arduin.
I don't think we can really call it an RPG if it doesn't have rules to contradict itself. Just, I mean, I'm going to be old fashioned in saying that.
Mandatory.
Rules, not rules.
Do you have the? There we go.
Oh my
There you
God!
go.
Here we go.
Yeah.
We're tubing. Oh, look at this! But wait for
Oh,
it.
look at it.
Oh my God! It
Oh
makes the
my.
noise.
It makes a noise.
Oh, it's like the Lawrence Welk noise of tubes. Play it again. Play it again. Play it again.
No, Jim. No. You have to go to bed.
Wait for it.
You got to listen to the
Wait
pop.
for it. Wait for it. Hold on. Here we go. Here we go. Turn it up. And oh, listen to that weighty rumble.
That is serious.
This isn't some paltry troll lord tube.
Jim,
No, no,
hands,
no, no, no.
hands where I can see him, Jim. Hands where I can see him. Okay.
We were very impressed with the tubes too. We were shocked. Like those came out really nice.
Oh, they're
My
yeah.
God.
Yeah. So
They weren't supposed to be. It was a thing.
yeah.
Epic. Or Eric, I sent you a couple of pictures in our chat for closing out tonight because what's tomorrow, the 4th of July? How better to celebrate the 4th of July than to back the Arduin map project? I'll throw that out there.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Hold,
you.
hold on.
That works.
I gotta get these pictures
I sent him 2.
saved. I see them. So
Oh,
hold
good.
on.
But Yankee Doodle
But-
Day.
But the great thing is, again, like, I think it's wonderful that you've got add-ons that are smart. I think it's great that you're selling the maps below retail through the Kickstarter. I'm sorry, you're running the Kickstarter to give people a chance to get the maps before they come out at a higher MSRP. You've got the add-ons that are at a very reasonable price compared to the MSRP. You've got a really well thought out shipping scheme that seems to be really fairly reasonable, all things considered. I'm sorry that Canadian ringgit doesn't go any farther, but only $10 more US to get things is great. And $50 worldwide means that somebody could really back and add on and pile on and
Correct.
run with it.
Yeah.
I think, yes, here we go. America, thank you. Nothing says America quite like a doctored Frazetta painting. And then why don't you share the other one? Because I know. Stop. We can only get so erect. And then if you'll share the other one, Eric, I think the other one is the last sentiment I would have in getting out and thinking about tomorrow. Just remember, whatever you do, make sure you leave Budweiser and a rifle out for Kid Rock tonight, or he's not going to bring you any fireworks.
Oh,
Look out, but you may not have your fingers.
Haley.
You may lose your fingers.
Yes, there are a lot of folks tonight going to bed not knowing that they will not have nearly as many fingers by the end of tomorrow night.
I don't think anybody thinks they're going to be. Nobody thinks they're only going to have 9 the next day, but there will
That's
be
right.
somebody. Yeah. There will
There's
be
always somebody.
Opposable thumbs while you have them, folks.
Yeah.
You know.
That's right.
And just as another little kick, I'm glad you, Jim, have some things that you're sharing here. I can share some of the artwork too. We always like to give a sneak peek, some of the actual artwork. For
Yeah.
the art. How's that?
Oh,
Give
please take my stupid memes off the screen and share something better.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So some of these, you may have seen before, but there's some new ones in here. But I want to kind of show off a couple things. So I will do a little bit of screen sharing here. Eric, let me see if I can.
Here we go.
Now here's one picture, and we're doing a combination of full color and black and white. And this is what it's in Arduin called a Triclops in Arduin. Can you guys see that? Or
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
okay. So there's our Triclops.
Trying to find a better.
3 heads are better than 1. Oh,
Of
3 heads are
course.
better than 2. Even. Yeah.
Here's another.
Yeah,
Can you see
pull
this?
up.
Can you see this one? The new one?
Hold on.
Or no? Do
You
I
gotta,
have to?
no, you got to close the old one out before I can.
Yeah,
You got to close the old one out.
Yeah.
All right. So I got to do them one at a time. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
No, StreamYard is a pain in the ass about that.
Okay. I want to show this one. This is our. That was the Triclops. This is our forest giant.
That is very nice artwork.
So if everyone's got a chance to look at that,
Very nice.
let me get to the next thing. So you saw a couple of those. Those are again color, full color. Now I'm going to show you some black and white. Whoop. And
Oh,
yep. And there's a card game in Arduin, which we sell, the Swords and Dragons. And that's what it is. The King of Skulls, that's one of the cards from our Swords and Dragons. It's a game Dave made to play in Arduin, kind of like poker. So this is a picture we did with Death dealing the card.
That is so old school. That is awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just to show you how we're doing both styles of artwork, we're doing a combination. So then let me present. Got a couple more here. This little guy is called the Scorpadillo in Arduin.
Oh yeah.
And
We're
that's
gonna
our
take an
new-
armadillo, and it's
Yep.
gonna have a scorpion horn. Because if you thought the owlbear was badass, well, check this one out. This is even more badass. Yes.
Yeah, this guy.
Mike, have you seen any of those down there in Texas? I thought I saw one down there. once.
Yeah, no, it's further south than I am. I'm up kind of the northern part of Dallas. You get them further south of San
El
Antonio.
Paso.
You get these things.
Yeah.
right in that area. Yeah, west of here.
Yeah. So this is our re-imaging of the Scorpadillo, which was another original Arduin creature. So nice little bugger. Throw 2d6 of these guys to a party. See how they like that.
Mm.
Always fun. And then let me show you one last one. This is another one that we have. These are the Fraints in Arduin. And what you're seeing here, this is how they're born in the game.
Mm.
So they're on sticks, and they come in little sacks. And they're born specifically, they're bred like blue and green are like your laborers, your technicians, your warriors. So this is a piece of artwork
Dice bags.
that Roland Brown did for us.
that's great.
So
Yeah, you have some really good, nice professional artwork here.
Yeah.
That's great.
So what we're doing with the new books, and I know I'm talking for the books for next year, but the Arduin Bloody Arduin, it's going to be 3 core books: Player's Grimoire, Game Master Grimoire, and the Monster Grimoire. And it's going to be a combination 8.5 by 11 full-size books, full color, but it's going to be black and white and full color. So you're going to get both. For those who like, we went back and forth, Eric, Mike, and Jim, and we're like, you know what? We're going to do both artwork because we know people love black and white, but then there's a lot of people who love the color. So we're
I think
like,
you have to have color nowadays. I think you have to have some color at least. It does play with a certain crowd that says, "Hey,
Yes.
black and white's too old fashioned." But the color pieces looked great. They looked absolutely
really
great.
spot on. They still had that old school feel. They weren't D&D 2024 or 5.
oh God no, oh God no, nothing like that. But hey guys, we really appreciate this and thank you.
No, it's great to have you guys on.
Yeah,
I hope
this was fun, Jim. It was a pleasure meeting you, talking to you. Go back and forth. No, we really do appreciate it. And again, I guess as far as the Kickstarter, for the Kickstarter, anybody's interested, great maps. If you want to use them in your game, you're starting a campaign. Again, you need a book full of names. Plug and play an island map if you need an island. They're cool maps. Even the names on the maps will spring your imagination. They're really cheap. They're good cost. You have a bunch of add-on books.
They're not expensive.
Yeah, they're not expensive. Wow.
Yeah,
Like I said,
they're quality. They're quality.
they're
Your
quality.
gaming
Yeah,
dollar
don't
is
need to
going
be
to go
cheap.
farther on this project than in countless other projects that are on Kickstarter right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you need a quick world, I mean, who doesn't? I mean, 76 countries. How many nomad nations? And if you grab the world guide, it's system agnostic as well.
Yeah, the 800-page world guide is completely system free. So you got all the information you need. And we got some really cool tubes.
Oh my God! Don't start on the tubes again.
No more on the tubes. No, they do.
Well, thanks, guys. We'll have to have you on again later on this year after this comes out. We get some reaction, and we'll just try to twist your arm, obviously, to go to North Texas again next year.
North Texas.
We're going to keep kicking you in the butt till you guys get down
say
here.
It 3 times. It's like Candyman, right? You're just going to have to appear.
You just have to come, yeah.
Yeah.
But
God forbid.
Again, huge thank you to our special guests. As I try to catch up to the last of the comments, you people are nonstop. Holy crap! George, Dave, thank you. Mike,
Thank you.
Thank
Jim,
you.
Thanks
you
for coming
always.
on, guys.
And thank you to everybody in the chat. You guys have been awesome. Great questions, great comments. So if you haven't backed yet, the link's on the bottom of the screen. If you want to go to the shortened one, Tenkar-tavern.games/Arduin will take you right to the Kickstarter. And
right.
mcho.com will take you to Emperor's Choice. You should be there all the time anyway. So it's just saying. All right, folks. Be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. Tomorrow's July 4th. Keep all your fingers, keep all your toes, and stay safe.